I never believed in ghosts, but that changed the moment I saw her standing at my doorstep. It was a late October evening, the kind where the air had a crisp bite and the wind howled through the trees like a distant whisper of forgotten things. I had just come home from work, kicking off my shoes and settling into the silence I had grown used to, a silence that had once been unbearable, but had now become my comfort. Then came the knock. Not frantic, not hesitant, just there, steady, as if the person on the other side had all the time in the world. I wasn't expecting anyone, and certainly not her. I froze for a moment, gripping the edge of my kitchen counter as a wave of emotions crashed over me. It had been almost 7 months since she walked out of my life, chasing after a fantasy she thought was better than the life we had built together. I remembered that night too well. The cold way she told me she was leaving, the way she packed her bags without a trace of hesitation, the way she walked out the door without ever looking back. And now she was here. I took a slow breath, forcing myself to move. My heart pounded as I reached for the doorknob, my fingers trembling. Despite my best effort to seem unbothered, the door swung open, and there she was, Emily. She looked different, but not in the way I expected. I had imagined her glowing with whatever new life she had chosen over me, looking happier, freer, fulfilled. Instead, she looked exhausted. Her hair was dull, her clothes wrinkled, her face thinner than I remembered. Her eyes, those same eyes that once held love, then betrayal, now held something I couldn't quite place. Regret, desperation. I stayed silent, waiting for her to speak. First, she swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hi. I know I'm the last person you want to see, but can we talk?" I should have slammed the door in her face. I should have laughed and told her to leave, just like she had done to me. But I didn't, because, as much as I wanted to pretend, I had moved on completely. My heart, stupid, foolish heart, still needed to know why she came back. And so, against my better judgment, I stepped aside and let her in. That was my first mistake. I closed the door behind her, and the sound echoed through the house like a reminder of everything that had happened. The same house where we had once lived together, where we had celebrated anniversaries, laughed over burnt pancakes on lazy Sundays, and whispered about dreams we thought would last a lifetime. But now, the warmth of those memories had long since faded, replaced by the cold emptiness of betrayal. She stood there awkwardly, shifting from foot to foot, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, as if she were trying to hold herself together. I leaned against the wall, arms folded, watching her, waiting. I wasn't going to make this easy for her. She was the one who left. She was the one who destroyed what we had. If she wanted something from me now, she would have to work for it. "Nice place," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. I let out a dry chuckle. "Yeah, it hasn't changed much. You know, since you walked out of it." She flinched at that. Good. Let her feel even a fraction of the pain. She put me through. A tense silence settled between us. I could feel her hesitating, as if searching for the right words, but there were no right words. Nothing she could say would erase what she had done. Finally, she spoke. I made a mistake." I scoffed. "Which part? Leaving cheating or coming back here?" Her eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite define. Guilt, shame, maybe both. She let out a slow breath. "All of it." I shook my head, laughing bitterly. "Right. And now, what did you want me to say?" "It's okay, Emily. Let's just forget the fact that you threw away our marriage for some loser who probably didn't even care about you. Is that why you're here?" She winced again, her fingers gripping the hem of her sweater. "It's not like that," then enlightened me. I shot back because the last time I saw you, you were walking out of my life like I was nothing, like everything. We admit nothing. And now, after months of silence, you just show up at my door looking like hell, telling me you made a mistake. I shook my head. You don't get to do this, Emily. You don't get to just come back like nothing happened. She swallowed hard, blinking rapidly as if trying to hold back tears. But I wasn't going to let those tears affect me, not this time. I was stupid, she admitted. I thought I was chasing something better, something exciting. I thought she cut herself off, shaking her head. I thought he loved me. I let out a humorless laugh, and let me guess he didn't. She dropped her gaze to the floor. No, he didn't. I should have felt satisfaction at that. I should have felt some kind of vindication that the man she threw me away for turned out to be nothing more than a disappointment. But all I felt was exhaustion. So now what? I asked my voice. Hollow, you're back because you realized I was the safe option. Because I was the guy who actually loved you. Her lip trembled slightly. I never stopped loving you. That was it. That was the moment I felt my anger surge like wildfire inside me. I pushed off the wall, stepping closer, lowering my voice so it was deadly calm. You don't get to say that. You don't get to come here and tell me that you never stopped loving me when you were in another man's bed. You don't get to say that after you chose him over me. She let out a shaky breath, her hands clutching each other tightly. I was wrong. That doesn't change anything I said. It doesn't erase what you did. It doesn't fix the nights I spent wondering what I did wrong, why I wasn't enough for you. It doesn't undo the fact that you left me when I needed you the most. She nodded slowly, her shoulders slumping. I know I watched her waiting for the fight, waiting for her to argue, to defend herself. But she didn't. She just stood there looking defeated, and for the first time I realized something. She wasn't just regretful. She was broken. The woman who once walked out of my life with her head held high was now standing in front of me, lost, hollow, and desperately searching for something to hold on to. But I wasn't sure if I had anything left to give, and that scared me more than anything. I wanted to kick her out. I should have. Every fiber of my being told me to tell her to turn around, walk back out that door, and disappear just as easily as she had months ago. But something held me back. Not forgiveness, not love, just unfinished business. She stood there in my living room, looking so out of place, like a stranger, trespassing on something that no longer belonged to her. The silence between us stretched heavy and suffocating until I finally exhaled and moved to the couch. If she wanted to talk, fine, but I was going to control the conversation. Sit, I said, pointing to the chair across from me. She hesitated, probably realizing that I wasn't welcoming her back, just giving her the chance to explain the inexcusable. Slowly, she sat down, clutching her hands in her lap. I stared at her for a moment, studying the face I once loved, the face that had betrayed me. She looked smaller than I remembered, like life had drained something from her. But I wasn't about to let that distract me. You said you made a mistake. I started, my voice steady. Let on. Hear it. The whole thing. She swallowed hard, her fingers twisting together. I don't even know where to start. Try the beginning, I said coldly. She took a deep breath and nodded after I left. Things were different than I expected. I thought it would be exciting, new, better. But the truth is it wasn't. He wasn't he. She hesitated, then bit her lip. He lied to me. I let out a dry laugh. Oh, the irony, she winced. I know I deserve that, but you don't understand. He told me everything I wanted to hear. that I was special, that I was missing out on life, that you— She hesitated again, her voice growing smaller. That you were holding me back. I scoffed, and you believed him. Her eyes flicked up to mine, filled with something close to shame. I wanted to believe it. I wanted to think I was chasing something meaningful. But it was all a lie. He never cared about me. The moment I wasn't new, the moment the excitement faded, he moved on. I should have felt satisfaction at that. Maybe some dark part of me did, but the stronger part of me just felt numb. You threw away everything we had for a fantasy, I said. And when it turned out to be nothing, you came back. Is that about right? Her breath hitched. It's not like that. Then tell me what it is like, Emily. Explain it to me. Because from where I'm sitting, that's exactly what it looks like. She closed her eyes for a second, then opened them again. I was stupid. I thought I was chasing happiness. But all I did was ruin the one thing that actually made me happy. I was selfish. I was blind. And I didn't see what I had until it was too late. I leaned back, my arms crossed. And now you're here, because what you want me to fix you to be your safety net. After you set fire to everything we built. Her lip trembled slightly. No. I came back because I had nowhere else to go. Those words hit differently. She wasn't just regretful. She was desperate. I frowned, suddenly suspicious. What happened, Emily? She hesitated, then let out a slow breath. I lost everything. The apartment. We got together. I left it for him, and now it's gone. My savings, he bled me dry. My job, I quit for him, thinking we'd start a new life together. But he had no plan, no future. And now I have nothing. No home, no money, no friends. The people I thought were on my side, they're gone. I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. I should have felt triumphant. I should have felt like justice had been served. But instead, all I felt was an overwhelming sense of disbelief. You gave up everything for him, I said, my voice quieter now. And he left you with nothing. She nodded slowly, tears threatening to spill. And that was when I realized something even more shocking than her betrayal. She wasn't just coming back because of regret. She was coming back because she had no other choice. I wasn't Plan A. I was Plan ZA. Backup, a safety net, a last resort. And that was the moment I knew. No matter how much she begged, no matter how much she cried, no matter how much I once loved her, I could never take her back. Because I was never her first choice, and I never would be. I didn't say anything for a long time. The room felt too small, too suffocating, as the weight of her words settled between us. She had nowhere else to go. Not because she wanted me, not because she loved me, but because she had run out of options. That realization hit me harder than anything else she had done. She had chosen him over me, thrown away everything we had built for a cheap thrill. And now that her fantasy had crumbled, she wanted to crawl back like nothing had happened. Did she think I was just sitting here waiting, that I had put my life on hold? For the moment she'd come knocking full of regret and expecting me to open my arms. I leaned forward, my elbows resting on my knees, studying her. The woman in front of me looked nothing like the one who walked out of my life months ago. Back then she was confident, excited about her new beginning. Now she was a shell of that person, tired, beaten down by her own choices, and clinging to the only thing she thought she had left. But I wasn't hers anymore. You really thought you could just come back here and I'd take you in? My voice was quiet, but there was an edge to it. When she noticed immediately, Emily swallowed hard, her fingers gripping the fabric of her sweater. I didn't think anything. I didn't know where else to go. Not my problem, I said flatly. Her breath hitched, and for the first time I saw a flash of real fear in her eyes. She had expected anger, maybe even resentment, but she hadn't expected this apathy. I wasn't the man she left anymore. You always said you'd be there for me, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I let out a dry laugh. Yeah, and you said you loved me. Turns out, words don't mean much, do they? She flinched like I had slapped her. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I just thought maybe we could talk. Talk. I repeated, shaking my head. What is there to talk about, Emily? You left. You made your choice. You didn't just cheat. You betrayed me. You humiliated me. You packed your bags, walked out that door, and didn't even look back. And now you're here expecting what, a second chance? Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't feel sympathy. Not anymore. I was stupid, she whispered. I thought I wanted something else, but I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. I exhaled, sharply rubbing my jaw, and that's supposed to mean something to me. Now you're here because life didn't work out the way you planned, not because you love me, not because you miss me. You're here because he didn't want you, and you need somewhere to land. She shook her head frantically. No, that's not. Don't lie to me, Emily. My voice was cold now, cutting through her excuses. You had months to reach out. You didn't. You had months to say you were sorry. You didn't. You only came back now, when you had no other choice. She opened her mouth, but no words came out, because she knew I was right. I stood up, walking toward the window, staring out at the darkened street. The air outside was cold, but inside it was suffocating. I could feel the past closing in around me, memories clawing their way back, but I pushed them down. I had moved on. I had to. After a long moment, I turned back to face her. I'm not your backup plan, Emily. I'm not your safety net. You made your bed. Now you can lie in it. Tears spilled down her cheeks now, but I felt nothing. Maybe months ago I would have caved. Maybe months ago I would have seen her pain and wanted to take it away. But now I just wanted her to leave. She wiped at her face with the sleeve of her sweater, her hands trembling. So that's it. You're just going to throw me out. I let out a bitter laugh. Throw you out, Emily? You threw yourself out the moment you walked away from me. You chose this. You don't get to come back now and pretend like I owe you anything. She stared at me, searching my face for something, a crack in my resolve, a hint of the man who used to love her. But that man didn't exist anymore. Finally, she let out a shaky breath and nodded. I get it, she murmured. I really screwed up. I didn't say anything. She looked around the room one last time, as if memorizing the life she had abandoned. Then slowly turned toward the door, but just as she reached for the handle, she paused. There's one more thing you should know, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I frowned. What? She hesitated, then turned to face me, her expression unreadable. I'm pregnant. The world tilted, my breath caught in my throat, and just like that, everything changed. I stood there, frozen, my mind, struggling to process the words that had just come out of her mouth. I'm pregnant. For a moment, time stopped. The air between us thickened, as if the very walls of this house knew that something had just shifted irreversibly. Emily looked at me, her eyes wide, waiting for a reaction, but I had none to give. My body felt numb, my thoughts racing in every direction except the one. I needed them to go pregnant. That one word held more weight than anything she had said tonight. More than her regret, more than her pleas, more than her admission of being abandoned by the man she left me. For it was a word that changed everything. Or at least it should have. But there was only one thought that I couldn't shake, one truth that refused to be ignored. Is it mine? The question left my lips before I even realized I had spoken it. Emily flinched, her face contorting with something between hurt and guilt. She let out a shaky breath, fingers tightening into fists at her sides. I don't know. I closed my eyes for a second, inhaling sharply. I had prepared myself for a lot of things tonight. Anger, resentment, even the possibility of giving her some small piece of closure. But this was something I hadn't seen coming. When I opened my eyes again, she was still standing there, waiting as if there was anything left to say. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice slow and deliberate. You leave me for another man. You break me in ways I never thought possible. You disappear without a word for 7 months, and now, when you have nowhere else to go, you come back here, throw this at me, and expect me to what? What exactly do you want from me? Emily? Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't feel sorry for her, not anymore. I needed you to know. I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. And what am I supposed to do with that information? Jump for joy, drop everything, and play house with you. She wiped at her face with the sleeve of her sweater. I didn't come here expecting anything. Okay, I thought you deserved to know if there's even a chance that it's yours. Don't you think you have a right? No, I cut her off, my voice sharper than I intended. I don't owe you anything, and I definitely don't owe a man who isn't me a lifetime of responsibility. She took a shaky step closer, desperate, creeping into her expression. But if it is yours, I exhaled, trying to steady the storm raging inside me, then we'll deal with that when we know for sure. Until then, don't come here asking me for something. I don't have to give Emily's face twisted with emotion, anger, sorrow, regret. You think this is easy for me? I laughed coldly. Easy, you want to talk about? Easy, you left. You made your choice. You walked out on the man who loved you without a second thought, and now you're standing in front of me. Ask for what sympathy? She didn't respond. I could see it in her. Face the realization that I wasn't the man she had walked out on. The man who would have done anything for her, forgiven anything for her. He was gone. You don't get to do this, Emily, I continued, my voice quieter now but no less firm. You don't get to drop a bomb like this in my lap and expect me to fix everything. Not after what you did. She let out a shaky breath, nodding slowly. I get it. I studied her carefully. Do you? She hesitated, then nodded again. Yeah, I do. I should have felt relief. I should have felt some kind of closure in watching her finally understand the damage she had done. But all I felt was exhaustion. She took a step toward the door, then paused. If I find out that it's yours, I'll call you. I nodded once, not trusting myself to say anything else. Emily turned, gripping the doorknob like it was the only thing keeping her upright. And then, just like that night 7 months ago, she walked out. But this time I didn't watch her go. I stood there long after she was gone, staring at the door as if it would suddenly swing open again, as if she would take back everything she said. But the house was silent. The only sound was the low hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock on the wall, and my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. She had left again, but this time it wasn't me who had lost something. It was her. I sank onto the couch, rubbing my temples as the weight of everything settled onto my shoulders. Emily was pregnant. Maybe with my child. Maybe with his. The thought made my stomach turn. I had spent the last months trying to erase her from my life, rebuilding myself from the ground up, and now, just like that, she had thrown me back into chaos. I needed air, grabbing my jacket. I stepped outside into the cold night. The air was sharp against my skin, but I barely felt it. The street was quiet. The soft glow of streetlights casting long shadows. I walked without a destination, just letting my feet carry me. It was better than sitting in that house drowning in the past 7 months ago. If she had shown up at my door, I probably would have broken down and begged her to stay. I would have given her a second chance, told myself that love was worth fighting for. But now, all I felt was emptiness. I didn't love her anymore. That realization should have been freeing, but instead it left a hollow ache in my chest. How could someone who had meant everything become just another face in the past? I kept walking, my thoughts a tangled mess. Emily had made her choice. She had left me for another man, thinking he would give her something better. She had gambled and lost, and now she wanted me to pick up the pieces. No, that wasn't my responsibility. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became, not just at her but at myself, because, despite everything, some part of me still felt responsible for her. Some part of me still wanted to make sure she was okay. It was infuriating. I turned a corner, finding myself in front of a familiar bar, a place I used to go with friends before my life had fallen apart. Without thinking, I stepped inside. The air was warm, the low murmur of voices and clinking glasses filling the space. I slid onto a bar stool and ordered a drink, letting the burn of whiskey ground me a rough night. A voice asked beside me. I glanced over to see a woman, mid-30s, confident smile, eyes that had seen their share of complicated pasts. "You could say that," I muttered, taking another sip. She tilted her head. "Want to talk about it? Or are you the suffering silence type?" I chuckled, dryin'. "I think I've done enough talking for one night." She nodded, not pushing. "Fair enough." For the first time all evening, I felt a little lighter. Maybe it was the whiskey, maybe it was just being around someone who didn't know my past, who didn't see me as the man who had been left behind. As the night went on, I realized something I didn't know, Emily. Anything. Not forgiveness, not comfort, not a place in my life. She had made her choices, and for the first time, I was finally ready to make mine. The next morning, I woke up with a clear head and a decision made. I wasn't going to let Emily's return pull me back into the past. I had spent months rebuilding myself from nothing, crawling out of the wreckage of what she had left behind. And now she thought she could just waltz back in, say a few regretful words and expect me to undo all the damage. No, I wasn't that man anymore. I got up, showered, and went about my day like nothing had changed, even though everything had. I refused to let her drop her problems into my life and walk away with my peace. But as much as I tried to focus on work, on errands, on anything, that wasn't her one question refused to leave me alone. What if the child is mine? It was the one thing that kept circling in my mind, no matter how much I told myself not to care, because if it was mine, then what would I be able to walk away knowing that somewhere out there was a kid with my blood, my name? Could I really ignore it just because I hated the woman who carried it? That question greeted me for days. I hadn't heard from Emily since that night, and I assumed she was figuring things out on her own. Good. Let her. I wasn't going to chase her for answers, but the uncertainty was a slow poison creeping into my thoughts when I least expected it. Finally, after a week of battling my own mind, I caved. I wasn't going to see her. I wasn't ready for that yet. But I needed Cialit, and I needed it on my own terms. I pulled out my phone and sent her a single message. Get a paternity test. I need to know. No, hi. No small talk. Just straight to the point. She responded almost immediately. I already scheduled one. I was going to tell you. That caught me off guard. Maybe for once, she wasn't playing games. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I'd get my answer soon enough. The following weeks felt like a slow countdown to something inevitable. I threw myself into work, into friends, into anything that would distract me. I went back to the bar a couple of times, even had a few interesting conversations with that woman I had met. But my mind was still split in two. One half wanted to forget Emily existed. The other was bracing for impact. Then, one evening, my phone rang. Emily. I hesitated for just a second before answering. Yeah. Her voice was small, uncertain. The results came in. I exhaled, steadying myself, and there was a pause. Then, it's not yours. Silence. I sat down, pressing a hand to my forehead as relief flooded me. Not mine. The weight I had been carrying for weeks evaporated in an instant. No obligations, no unwanted ties, no reason to keep her in my life at all. Okay, I said simply. Emily hesitated. That's it? What do you expect me to say? I don't know. She let out a shaky breath. I guess this is really it. Then even though she couldn't see me. Yeah, Emily, this is it. She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She just whispered, I'm sorry, and hung up. And just like that, the last thread tying us together was cut. For the first time in months, I was completely free, and I had never felt better. For the first time, in what felt like an eternity, I woke up feeling weightless. No lingering doubts, no heavy questions pressing on my chest. Just relief. The past was finally behind me, where it belonged. Emily was gone. She had come back thinking she could pull me back into the mess she had created. But life had a way of balancing itself. The child wasn't mine. That was the last puzzle piece I needed to close that chapter of my life forever. And now I was finally free to move forward. I spent the next few weeks doing something I hadn't done in a long time. Living for myself. I started going to the gym again, something I had neglected. While drowning in heartbreak, I reconnected with old friends, the ones I had pushed away. When I was too embarrassed to admit how much Emily had broken me, I even booked a weekend trip solo because, why not? I didn't need to wait for someone else to dictate my happiness anymore. One night, I found myself back at the bar, the same one where I had first realized that Emily didn't control my future. And this time, when I sat down, I wasn't lost in my thoughts. I wasn't dwelling on the past. I was just here. That same woman from before, The one with the confident smile in the eyes that had seen their share of complicated pasts, slid onto the stool next to me again. "Back so soon," she teased, swirling her drink. I smirked. "Maybe I like the atmosphere, or maybe you just like good company." She shot back with a knowing look. I laughed, shaking my head. Maybe. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about Emily. I wasn't thinking about what I had lost. I was thinking about what was ahead, because life didn't end when she walked out. It was just getting started.